continue to draw the 220 a fortnight. And the reason why we made that announcement and had the arrangement with FNPF, the government actually thank you, Governor. I think it's very important for us to understand that the governor gave us statistics as to where we are. And obviously, everybody's talking about the vaccine or the opening up of the borders as the panacea or as really the ideal situation to get everything started. But in the meantime, we cannot put our hands on top of each other and sort of wait for this thing to happen. We have to be proactive. From one perspective, obviously, it's easier said than done because a lot of people have to re-engineer, they have to reconfigure their businesses. And the reality is not everybody can do so like everybody else. Some companies have got more of not just an appetite, but a capacity, the ability to do that, given the fact that they may have the financial depth, financial capacity. Others may not. And in fact, some of them actually don't. So, from government's perspective, we are working on a number of fronts, and indeed managing a number of expectations. I just got a text message just 2 minutes before I walked in here saying, I've fallen behind with my hire purchase. Can you give me access to my FNPF accounts? So we get those types of requests almost sometimes on an hourly basis. Of course, there are some people who are concerned about their businesses. What will the banks do? Will they continue with this holiday, this moratorium? Will it be extended or not? Will the digital registration of companies be extended or not, the timeline for that? Can I withdraw my FNPF funds to, prop up my coffee shop? So we get all sorts of requests. Of course, on the other hand, we have we have to manage the reality that if tomorrow the borders open, that we have enough capacity to be able to cater for the tourists. Whether it's under the Bula bubble, or whether it's because we have vaccine and the borders are completely open. We had, you may recall that a couple of months ago, I think it was about a couple of months ago, we made an announcement in the 4th phase of the FNPF withdrawals that those tourism sector workers who are now in the 220 a fortnight, even if they go back and work on the weekend, they can still continue to draw the 220 a fortnight. And the reason why we made that announcement and had the arrangement with FNPF, and the government actually agreed to foot the bill, so to speak, is because a lot of the hoteliers were telling us that, as you know, that long weekends through the Love Your Locals program, a lot of the hotels are getting filled up. The management weren't getting enough staff to turn up to work on weekends because the staff were saying, well, we might lose our 220. So there's a real, HR issue there. If people continue to stay at home, will they lose their skill sets? The skill sets they had, and therefore we may lose our edge once the borders actually open up. So they need to continuously engage in that particular profession or that career for us to be able to deliver high-end products, and that is with the hotel industry. So, similarly, there's some other expectations in respect of what type of, funding are we providing to the roads, to water accessibility, of course, electricity extensions. So there's a number of competing interests. We had in the last budget a $3.7 billion expenditure, projected revenue $1.7 billion. Our deficit in the COVID response budget was 8.2%, and of course it went up to 20.2%. The 2021-2022 budget. Debt to GDP ratio, COVID response budget was 65.6, now it's 83.4%. So these are some of the realities and the framework that we have to work with. There is, of course, like I said, a lot of positioning a lot of businesses can do. We, of course, are trying to position businesses, as the governor announced, that we have the micro, small, medium enterprise concessional loans we are giving for the first time, working through FRCS for the collection of these debts. 1 year, no repayment required, payable over the next 4 years. Interest rates are extremely low. I think the maximum is about 1.5%. and of approximately $25 million, I think, has already been disbursed. So that's an injection into the economy. We have $100 million allocated in the budget, of which $95 million has been set aside to pay for unemployment benefits. And again, these are management of these things. We didn't want to put people on social welfare, because that's a different psychological space altogether. Unemployment benefit means that you're unemployed and therefore you get these benefits until the time you're employed. The moment you put people under the social welfare framework is a different sort of mindset. Now, of that, of course, we are now on a daily basis, we are seeing that more and more people are actually accessing government funds through FNPF, because a lot more people are, actually finishing off their general account amounts in their general account. So therefore, there's a more contribution by government on a daily basis in that scheme. Now, these are sort of expectations that we are managing. We also, at the same time, are trying to be innovative, as announced in the budget. We've got rid of a number of taxes that are in place, whether it's STT, reducing CAL, got rid of the stamp duties, all those provisions, no more business licenses, etc., and reduction of duty in alcohol. And one of the reasons somebody said to us, well, you just want to sell alcohol. Well, no, actually. The reason why we did do that is because Fiji traditionally has been known to be expensive on F&B, food and beverage in the tourism sector. You have, Phukets of the world and Balis of this world already advertising $99 for 5 nights in a 4-star hotel. The reality of the matter is that you cannot actually compete with $99 for 5 nights. I don't think any 4-star hotel, even in the locals program, is offering $99 for 5 nights. So we wanted to pre-position ourselves. We set aside $60 million to subsidize the hotels in Fiji Airways for the first 150,000 arrivals. That has not happened as yet. Fiji Airways is now flying, doing some freight flights. Last week we were at Nadi Airport. The High Commissioner for Australia was there. 172 Fijian workers went across on the Pacific Labour Scheme on 3-year contracts. So it's great to see the plane fill up on the top and at the bottom too. At the moment, the plane is only filled at the bottom. So these are the sort of realities that we are working with. But notwithstanding all of this, we hope that some of the businesses actually take advantage of some of the natural synergies that has actually developed, whether it's in the ITC sector or whether it's because of the incentives we've announced. I was in Lutoka last Sunday. There's a fairly large business that's subdividing lots just in the Maputo area, residential lots. I think it's about 80 lots, priced between $150,000 to $180,000. Underground electricity, underground telecom, water, etc., sewage system connection. Now, they've done so because of the fact that we've announced that there won't be any profits on any sales of properties from these lots. That's one of the incentives we've announced. So we see some people who are actually trying to take advantage of this, and we therefore want to spur the construction sector. It does not necessarily, I suppose, answer the issues that some of the smaller businesses face. So we had a meeting with the ADIF and FNPF last week on Friday. We have had some general agreements in respect of the continuation of the moratorium on a case-by-case basis. We were particularly concerned about those people who had home mortgages. We don't want people to lose their homes because of non-repayment. And, the argument being, what's the point of protecting my pension when I lose the roof over my head? So there's a very strong case regarding that. So this will require perhaps some legislative changes, and we've got Parliament next week. We hope to bring some of that to the fore. We're also talking to the bank, perhaps to have a general, specific legal framework in relation to this, to give people that level of confidence, and I think that's critically important. There are some people that we've spoken to that they have the capacity, but they're waiting to see what the other guy is doing, what the other person is going to do. So we know there's a couple of, there's one particular groundbreaking ceremony that took place this morning in Nadi for a large, very large warehouse. And we hope in that subdivision there'll be another 2 or 3 coming up. And that, of course, again, so 80% of the psychology. So when people see other people constructing, they feel, okay, we can do that. If there's construction taking place, coffee shops around the place, that people come and start using them or using their facilities and their services. It's interesting, talking to Fiji Airways, the freight flight to LA, about 80 to 85% is agriculture that goes out from Fiji. Bulk of it is Yamona, cotton. But the one that's now the second largest agricultural produce in the past 3 months or so has been turmeric, or haldi, as most people know. Now this is now a new superfood. Everybody wants to have access to haldi. So, there are opportunities in the agricultural sector, and as the governor highlighted that the growth or the contraction, of course, has been somewhat mitigated, one percentage point, I think, by a slight growth in agriculture, which we did not anticipate. Similarly, we did not anticipate perhaps a little bit of growth in the construction sector, although it's still down compared to what it was. Regarding the tourism sector, if I sort of round off, the tourism sector is that we, of course, are talking to our development partners, in particular Australia and New Zealand. Our talks with Australia is far more advanced than New Zealand at this point in time, and we hope that New Zealand can catch up to Australia. And we are grateful to Australia for the talks that have been advanced, and we look forward to a lot more traction in that respect. But we believe that the Bulla bubble, of course, is a good mechanism until such time as perhaps the vaccine is developed and people are able to travel more freely. I wanted to also just, say that we've, those of you who can actually position yourselves now, it's critically important to do so. As the governor highlighted, that in fact, if the vaccine is developed or the borders open in the next 1 year, our growth rate can be quite phenomenal. Obviously, we'll be starting off from a much lower base. Frankly, in order to get up to the pre-COVID, figures, probably take us 3 to 5 years, depending on how fast the growth takes place, how fast things normalize. But notwithstanding that, we can actually very quickly, get up to speed very quickly. It's interesting. We are projecting to get 1 million tourists by end of this year, early next year. I was just saying to somebody the other day privately, I'd be so over the moon even if we got 10,000 tourists tomorrow. That's the reality. And that's the new norm we have to work with. But in the meantime, as government, we are obviously trying to, manage those expectations and also continuously trying to be, innovative. I want to, lastly, before I finish, I want to thank the 4 organizations that work with us, the Fiji Institute of Accountants, the Fiji Chamber of Employers Federation, Fiji Chamber of Commerce, and of course the Women in Business, that helped us process, I think, over 9,000 applications that we received for the MSME. It's not easy, of course. There are a lot of expectations through that, but we would not have done. In fact, I think they're still doing it. They're still assessing that. And that's one issue that I'd like to also take up with all of you. I think there's a real opportunity for us for a lot deeper collaboration with the private sector and the private sector with government. There are some countries where they have set up actually, independent standing entities where the private sector is very active in terms of providing and working with the government, providing support to these smaller businesses. As I mentioned to the Institute of Accountants, now I think the former president, I think we've got a new president now, you change the presidents very frequently, I can't get up to speed with it. But the fact of the matter is that, as I said to them, that perhaps part of your yearly point system, you could have accountants providing cash flow projections and that type of work for small businesses. That could be part of your point system. In the same way, lawyers I know in Australia, having done that myself, in order to get your points to have your practicing certificate renewed the following year, if you went and worked at a legal aid office, you could actually get points towards that. So the accountants can actually do that. There are a lot of small businesses that don't know how to do a cash flow, they don't know how to drive a project, proposal. They could do that. And this is a real time where the private sector actually could get together. We could have one of those organizations, government could provide a little bit of funding towards that, and set up such an organization to help the small businesses. We need to be creative about these things. So, and I hope that the panel discussion today will open up some of those new ideas. Thank you very much.